Okay. Now we are recording. Okay. Okay. Mr. Ealing, what brings you to the European Parliament if your main objective as a party is to create the Parliament of England?
Okay, very good question to start. My name is Derek Hilling and I'm the lead candidate for the English Democrats in the West Midlands region. The English Democrats, as Marianne has alluded to, is fundamentally believes in independence for England. So we want England to be governed purely by its own parliament. But we are standing in these European elections because they are elections, and we are a political party, and we want to try and get our ideas out to the widest section of the population, and therefore elections are the place to do that. We believe that the EU is not good for England, but we also believe that the United Kingdom is no longer good for England, and we want to see England out of both of the unions that it belongs to. We want to see England out of the EU, and we want to see England out of the United Kingdom. We are for an independent England.
So, yeah, going back to your aim to be out of the European Union, which is the main focus, because now we are talking about European elections. But according to a report by the City UK, the living EU would eat financially many financial institutions based on it. So it would be a huge loss on a financial point of view.
Yes, and this I think is the main argument against leaving the EU. But in all fairness, when the United Kingdom voted to join the European Union, of course it was then a trading alliance called the Common Market. And over the 30 or 40 years since then, it has developed into a political entity. Now, that is what we disagree with. We disagree with the giant European superstate that it is gradually becoming. We believe that power should be vested in a parliament in England, and the people in England should run their own affairs. We believe it is possible, in exiting from the European Union, to make arrangements to trade with the European Union in the way we always have done. Lots of people are saying that that means that we will be worse off. But I think all of the political parties are being disingenuous, because the logic of Europe and the Eurozone is that they must all get much closer together politically. It seems to me that Greece, Italy, Spain will have much less say over what they want to do in the next few years because they are in debt to the rest of Europe. So as Europe gets closer together politically, Britain, which is outside of the Eurozone, will inevitably be squeezed out of that. So it's actually wrong to suggest that simply by staying in Europe, the United Kingdom will continue to benefit. It will not. The Eurozone will eventually squeeze out the United Kingdom, and there will be a two-stage Europe, in which case the likelihood is that the United Kingdom will be forced to renegotiate the deal that it has with Europe, and that's all we're saying we would do. An independent England would renegotiate the deal with the European Common Market. So we are very conscious of that loss of business, but for any loss of business with Europe, we feel that can be made up with the ability to expand our trade with the rest of the world. And that's how England built its wealth in the first place. 400 or 500 years ago, England built its wealth on trading with the world, and that's what we think we should get back to.
Yeah, but the very big financial institution like Goldman Sachs, UBS, which is like very giant banks, have already warned that they would move to another European country if UK decided to split from the EU. So, do you think you can make an agreement with them when they already said, "Oh, we're going to move anyway because we would disagree with this decision"?
Well, okay, that's Goldman Sachs' point of view. And that's and UPS, and that may happen. The logic of that is that they would have to move to Frankfurt, realistically, because that is the second major financial market in Europe after London. But to be honest, that may well happen anyway because of what's happening with the Eurozone. I think all of the political parties are not really coming out and explaining the logic of the Eurozone. The Eurozone will mean that those countries in the Eurozone will have to get closer together politically, and it may mean that London no longer holds the right to be the leading financial centre in Europe. But I would also pose to that point from Goldman Sachs, what about if Scotland breaks from the United Kingdom? As seems increasingly likely. The polls are moving closer together. If Scotland breaks from the United Kingdom in September, then Great Britain and the United Kingdom will no longer exist. So everybody will have to reconsider it then anyway. People are painting this fixed picture. This is what we have now, and if we do something, it will mean that we're worse off. Well, things may happen, and things may be worse off anyway. Nobody is really telling the truth here about what can happen in the future. Inevitably, things will change in the future, and we will have to adapt to that. But England has always been very good at adapting to the future, and I believe that's the way in which we can make ourselves stronger now.
Okay. Many observers are expecting, anyway, an Eurosceptical win at the next election. Not just in the UK, but in many EU countries. So, will your party, the English Democrats, will team up with the other Eurosceptical parties in Europe?
Yes, if we're fortunate enough to get people elected in May, in 3 weeks' time, we will undoubtedly look to join up with other Eurosceptic parties. We don't have any definite plans at the moment. We have been speaking to one or two parties, but yes, inevitably we would try to form alliances with other Eurosceptic parties. And that, I think, belies this point. People are saying that we're little Englanders, that we're only interested in England. That's not true. We are very much Europeans. In fact, England has always been, right from the Anglo-Saxons' time, 12, 13, 1400 years ago, England has always been at the centre of Europe and been concerned about European developments, and we would still be that. We are not anti-European, we are simply against the EU, and that is a big difference for me, and that we would look to cooperate with anybody in Europe that felt that the EU was the wrong way for Europe to develop.
So, during the last 6 years, EU helped West Midlands with almost 660 million of funds in the ERDF fund and the ESF funds. And for the next 6 years, despite the historical cuts of funding of the budget, West Midlands will get even more, like 760 million in funds. So, do you think that anyway Europe matters for West Midlands because of the funds that this region received from the EU institutions?
Yes, it's a good argument, but in actual fact, we are in favour of coming out of the EU. So that would save England somewhere in the region of £50 million a day in funds that's going to Europe. So we think, actually, what's the point in sending all of our money over to Brussels for them to send us some of it back but they always tell us how to spend it. We actually think that it makes more sense for us to keep our funds in England and to spend it how we want. So however much the West Midlands gets from the EU at the moment, if England comes out of the EU, we will save a lot more funds than that, and so the West Midlands will be able to get a lot more funds. It makes no sense for us to send all this money over to Brussels for them to send some of it back. That to me makes no sense. We would be better to keep the money here and to spend it in England on what we want. And if that's the case, I think the West Midlands, along with every other region in England, would be much better off.
Okay. And final question, why West Midlands citizens should vote for you? If you get elected, what difference would you make in the EU Parliament? Just yourself in West Midlands.
If the people in the West Midlands vote for the English Democrats, and I am the lead candidate, so I would be the first beneficiary of their votes, they can be absolutely sure that I would be doing the best in the European Parliament for the West Midlands. If there are any things that affect the West Midlands, any funds that come from the Parliament, then I would be trying to make sure that the West Midlands got a good deal. But I have to say this, that I would be spending a very large part of my time campaigning to try and get England out of the European Union. I make no bones about the fact that I don't believe in the European Parliament, and I would like to see us come out of it. We are in it at the moment, and I have to work with that. But fundamentally, I would be spending my time trying to make sure that England was an independent country, free of the European Union and free of the rest of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, and another question that just came up. What's the difference between your party and the UKIP? They say the same things.
We do have a similar position to UKIP on, for instance, the EU. They are against the EU, and that is true. We agree with that. They are also against uncontrolled immigration, and we are against that as well. We are not against immigration. We simply say that we should be able to control our own borders, and we can't do that inside the EU. The difference between the English Democrats and actually every other party standing in this election is that every other party is British. They all talk about Britain. And we are the only organisation that is talking about England. All of the other parties are ignoring the fact that Britain is tearing itself apart. Scotland may well become an independent nation in September. Vote for becoming an independent nation in September, in which case, what are all these British parties going to talk about then? What we need to do is to admit the fact that Britain is a dying political concept. The future is England, and if you want to vote for the future, if you want to vote for England, then vote for the English Democrats.